We are taught from the moment we are born that water is the ultimate cradle of life. We build our sprawling cities around it. We drink it to survive, and we naturally seek it out for peace and comfort. But history and nature documentaries have sold us a comforting, beautiful lie. There are certain currents flowing across this planet right now that do not bring the gift of life. Instead, they operate as heavily camouflaged meat grinders, toxic chemical traps, and silent natural slaughterhouses. We are about to embark on a terrifying global expedition to uncover these deadly waterways. And you will want to brace yourself because this journey is strictly designed to escalate rapidly. Every single river we explore today will be vastly more dangerous, more deceptive, and more mind-boggling than the one before it. We will build up from violent physical currents to invisible killers until we reach an absolute flawless trap with a 100% fatality rate. But right before we dive into this escalating nightmare, I have a quick and sincere request. Please take just 1 second to register and subscribe to this channel. It is a very small deed on your part, but it holds great meaning for our team, allowing us to continue uncovering these dark geographical secrets for you. Now, do not let the serene, sparkling beauty of a calm surface deceive your eyes. The gentle sound of water rushing over stones is often a mask for pure, unforgiving violence. Prepare yourself to enter the darkest waters on Earth, where one wrong step means total erasure. We begin our deadly escalating journey in the United States, where the tranquil surface of a famous waterway hides a violent physical trap. To understand the deceptive nature of these deadly waters, we travel just 14 miles upstream from Washington, D.C. Here we find the infamous Great Falls of the Potomac River. If you stand on the rocky shoreline, the water cascading over the ancient stones looks incredibly picturesque and even inviting to a confident swimmer. But beneath that beautiful rippling surface lies a jagged underwater labyrinth of razor-sharp rocks. Over thousands of years, the rushing water has carved deep, narrow gorges, creating immense and violent downward suction currents. These hidden hydraulic jumps act as a giant natural shredder operating entirely out of sight. This specific stretch of river is incredibly impressive because of its absolute disregard for human skill. It completely neutralizes physical strength. It does not matter if you are an Olympic gold medalist or a professional rescue diver. Once you slip into the main currents of the Great Falls, the intense downward force will violently drag you to the bottom and pin you against the bedrock until your lungs give out. If you think you could somehow outswim a river current simply because you are a very strong swimmer, press 1 in the comments so we can see how many brave souls we have watching today. What makes this river truly terrifying is how such a seemingly peaceful surface can completely mask an inescapable underwater tornado. The surface gives absolutely zero visual warning of the hydraulic washing machine churning violently just a few feet below. It has claimed countless overconfident lives simply because the human eye cannot perceive the raw mathematical physics of the crushing water pressure hidden beneath the glare of the sun. The Potomac River kills with sheer brutal physical force. But as terrifying as drowning in a violent whirlpool might be, our next river escalates the danger significantly. It kills with a weapon that is entirely silent, completely invisible, and leaves no physical trace of violence. The Potomac River kills with sheer brutal physical force, but our next destination trades violent rapids for a completely silent assassin. We leave the jagged rocks of America and travel to the freezing, immense wilderness of Russia to witness the chilling waters of the Yenisei River. This colossal waterway flows quietly through the desolate Siberian landscape all the way up to the icy Arctic Ocean. During the height of the Cold War, the Soviet Union constructed highly classified underground plutonium production facilities along its remote banks. The most infamous was the secret closed city of Zheleznogorsk. For decades, these hidden nuclear reactors systematically pumped hundreds of thousands of gallons of heavily radioactive wastewater directly into the freezing river system. This river does not need massive whirlpools or hidden jagged rocks to end a life. It is deeply impressive because it operates as a perfectly camouflaged, methodical killer. The Yenisei effectively transforms ordinary life, giving fresh water into a weapon of mass cellular destruction. Drinking it or even wading in certain contaminated sections exposes the human body to lethal isotopes like strontium-90 and cesium-137. These radioactive elements silently dismantle your DNA from the inside out, turning the water itself into a relentless, slow-acting poison. If you would rather face the immediate physical danger of a violent whirlpool than the creeping silent dread of invisible radiation poisoning, press 2 in the comments right now. What makes this geographical anomaly so strange and deeply unsettling is the absolute silence of the threat. The water looks crystal clear and perfectly normal. Scientists still do not fully understand the long-term ecological mutations happening deep within the riverbed because the contamination constantly shifts beneath the thick winter ice. It creates completely invisible dead zones that dispatch life without leaving a single trace of physical violence. While radiation is a freezing, slow-acting killer hidden in a remote wilderness, our next threat escalates the terror. It brings sudden, terrifying bloodshed directly into the very heart of a bustling modern metropolis. The silent, freezing dread of the Siberian wilderness is terrifying, but our next destination brings sudden, violent bloodshed directly into the heart of a bustling modern metropolis. We travel to the sunny coasts of Australia to navigate the dark, winding currents of the Brisbane River. This massive waterway flows directly through the center of a thriving city of over 2 million people. It is lined with towering skyscrapers, beautiful waterfront restaurants, and busy ferry terminals. But beneath the murky brown surface of this urban waterway swims a massive, hyper-aggressive population of apex predators. The Brisbane River is heavily infested with thousands of bull sharks. These are not small, docile river fish. We are talking about massive territorial ocean killers that can easily grow up to 11 feet long and weigh nearly 700 pounds. They are globally recognized as the most dangerous and unpredictable shark species on Earth. Before we dive deeper into the muddy hunting grounds of these urban predators, please take just one brief moment to subscribe to the channel. Your quick support means the world to us and helps us keep unearthing these incredible stories. This river is deeply impressive because it completely shatters the fundamental illusion of urban safety. We naturally assume that the center of a major metropolis is a conquered, safe environment. You are entirely surrounded by modern concrete glass and the comforts of civilization. Yet one accidental slip off a city dock plunges you instantly into a ruthless prehistoric food chain. The water here is so completely saturated with thick brown agricultural silt and urban runoff that visibility is reduced to absolute zero. If you fall in, you are entirely blind, but the sharks can easily track the frantic electrical rhythm of your heartbeat. What makes this biological anomaly so incredibly strange is how flawlessly these massive oceanic sharks have adapted to a muddy freshwater environment. Scientists still do not fully understand the exact biological mechanisms that allow these saltwater predators to comfortably thrive and reproduce so far upriver. They use the dense, suffocating sludge of the city as a perfect cloaking device, navigating strictly by instinct in the absolute dark. Escaping the razor-sharp jaws of a hidden beast is a terrifying gamble. But what happens when the river itself transforms into a suffocating, toxic nightmare where the water is the actual weapon? Our next location abandons the threat of teeth for a slow, agonizing decay. The Brisbane River threatens you with the razor-sharp teeth of apex predators, but our next destination abandons the threat of a sudden bite for a slow, agonizing decay. We travel to the dense industrial heartland of West Java, Indonesia, to witness the suffocating nightmare of the Citarum River. If you stand on the banks of this heavily industrialized waterway, you will likely not even see the water itself. The surface is entirely choked by a thick, floating continent of millions of tons of domestic plastic waste. Beneath that suffocating canopy of trash, the river flows in bizarre, highly unnatural colors, neon greens, deep purples, and pitch blacks. This is the direct result of hundreds of textile factories relentlessly dumping raw, untreated industrial chemicals, lead, and mercury straight into the fragile ecosystem. If you think suffering through toxic chemical sludge is actually a worse fate than facing an aggressive bull shark, press 4 in the comments right now to cast your vote. The Citarum holds the grim, undisputed title of the most polluted river on planet Earth. It is deeply impressive in its sheer, relentless capacity for ecological destruction. Unlike the violent rapids of the Potomac or the apex predators in Australia, this river does not necessarily kill you the exact moment you fall in. Instead, it banishes you to a slow, methodical demise. The toxic heavy metals penetrate the skin and lungs, virtually guaranteeing a long-term sentence of severe respiratory illnesses, skin diseases, and aggressive cancers. What makes this geographical tragedy so bizarre and deeply heartbreaking is the undeniable paradox of human survival. Despite the water being essentially a slow-moving channel of liquid poison, experts still struggle to fully comprehend how an estimated 30 million impoverished people completely rely on this toxic sludge. They are forced to use this deadly chemical cocktail to irrigate their rice paddies, wash their clothing, and even bathe their children every single day. They are locked in a fatal, inescapable dependency on a river that is actively rotting their bodies from the inside out. The chemical wasteland of the Siberia River brings a slow, suffocating decay that ruins lives over a span of decades. But as we move further across the globe, we find another highly contaminated waterway. Only this time, the heavy pollution serves as the perfect camouflage for a massive, prehistoric horror waiting patiently in the shallows. The chemical wasteland of Indonesia offers a slow, agonizing demise, but our next river hides a sudden, violent prehistoric death right beneath its murky surface. If you think facing a living dinosaur is the absolute most terrifying way to leave this world, press 5 in the comments right now. We must travel to the dense tropical jungles of Costa Rica to stand above the infamous Crocodile Bridge spanning the Tarcoles River. If you look down from this heavy concrete overpass, you will immediately see what appears to be hundreds of massive, thick wooden logs jammed tightly together in the shallow, muddy water. But as you stare closer through the humid air, the massive logs begin to slowly shift and open their golden reptilian eyes. These are American crocodiles. We are not just looking at a few scattered animals. We are talking about thousands of massive apex predators growing up to 20 feet long and weighing nearly 2,000 pounds each. They are tightly packed together shoulder to shoulder in the heavily polluted brown water, waiting patiently for any unfortunate creature to fall from the steep banks above. The sheer overwhelming density of these massive reptiles is absolutely staggering and deeply impressive. If a human were to accidentally slip and fall off that bridge, they would not simply drown or be bitten just once. The sudden splash would instantly trigger a massive chaotic feeding frenzy among hundreds of starving reptiles. The victim would be subjected to a terrifying vortex of violent death rolls. Dozens of heavy jaws possessing incredible crushing power would latch on simultaneously and violently twist. This ancient hunting maneuver is designed to instantly sever limbs and shred flesh in a matter of mere seconds. It is a flawless biological meat grinder operating in plain sight. What completely baffles biologists and wildlife experts is how these ancient monsters manage to thrive and dominate in such an incredibly toxic environment. The Tarcoles River is notoriously contaminated with raw urban sewage and brutal agricultural pesticide runoff from nearby farms. By all conventional scientific logic, the extreme pollution should have decimated the local wildlife. Yet instead of dying off, this specific population of crocodiles is multiplying at an insane, unnatural rate. Scientists still do not fully understand how their reptilian immune systems process the heavy chemical toxins without suffering severe casualties or mutations. They have somehow adapted perfectly to the squalor, turning the thick, toxic sludge into the ideal murky camouflage to hide their staggering numbers. Escaping a river completely choked with flesh-eating reptiles is a terrifying physical challenge. But imagine a waterway so incredibly hostile that no large animal could ever survive inside it. Our next destination completely defies the established laws of nature by flowing with a liquid so highly corrosive that it can literally dissolve human bone. Escaping a river completely choked with flesh-eating reptiles is a terrifying physical challenge. But imagine a waterway so incredibly hostile that no large animal could ever survive inside it. Our next destination completely defies the established laws of nature by flowing with a liquid so highly corrosive that it can literally dissolve human bone. We travel to the rugged mountains of southwestern Spain to witness the terrifying alien landscape of the Rio Tinto. If you stand on the barren, rocky shores of this waterway, you will feel as if you have been teleported directly to the surface of Mars. The water here does not run clear or muddy. It flows with a thick, dark red color that looks exactly like fresh arterial blood. For over 5,000 years, ancient civilizations and modern corporations relentlessly mined the surrounding mountains for copper, gold, and silver. This endless aggressive excavation completely shattered the bedrock, exposing heavy iron sulfides to the open air and groundwater. The result is a geographical nightmare. The Rio Tinto is not a normal river. It is a massive flowing acid bath. The water possesses a terrifyingly low pH level hovering around 1.7 to 2.5. That is roughly the exact same acidity as the gastric acid churning inside your stomach right now. If a human were to carelessly wade into these bloody waters, the extreme acid would immediately begin to violently burn and dissolve exposed skin and tissue. It is a stunning visual reminder of how human greed can permanently mutate the natural world. Before we uncover the ultimate and most deceptive killer on our list, please take a moment to register and subscribe to the channel. It takes just 1 second, but it greatly helps us bring these mysterious locations directly to your screen. Despite being a highly toxic, acidic wasteland that destroys standard biological life, the Rio Tinto harbors a deeply unexplained mystery. Scientists recently discovered that the river is not entirely dead. It is actually teeming with microscopic extremophile bacteria. These bizarre alien-like organisms do not need sunlight or normal nutrients to survive. They literally feed on the heavy iron and sulfide minerals, thriving in a toxic environment that should instantly obliterate them. Astrobiologists are so baffled by this impossible ecosystem that they are currently using the Rio Tinto to study how life might exist on distant planets. We have witnessed violent rapids, invisible radiation, urban predators, suffocating chemicals, and dissolving acid. But prepare yourself, because every single one of these terrifying threats completely bows down to the ultimate killer waiting for us. Our final river looks incredibly beautiful and completely harmless. Yet it possesses a flawless and inescapable 100% fatality rate. We just left the heavily toxic alien landscape of the Rio Tinto, but our final destination proves that nature does not need acid or monsters to execute a perfect kill. If you are ready to witness a beautiful river with a confirmed 100% fatality rate, press 7 in the comments right now to brace yourself. We travel to Yorkshire in the United Kingdom to visit a picturesque section of the River Wharfe known as the Bolton Strid. The surrounding ancient woodland is absolutely idyllic and covered in vibrant green moss. The water gently babbles over smooth gray stones. At its narrowest point, the Strid is barely 6 feet across. It looks like a quaint little creek. It looks incredibly inviting. It looks like a tiny gap that any confident adult or even a brave child could easily leap over on a warm summer afternoon. But that tiny gap is the most deceptive and flawlessly executed trap in the entire natural world. Just a few yards upstream, the River Wharfe is a massive 30-foot wide waterway packed with thousands of gallons of heavy rushing water. When it hits the geological fault line of the Strid, all of that immense volume and crushing pressure does not simply slow down or disappear. It is violently forced into a deep, narrow vertical chasm carved directly into the ancient bedrock. The entire river literally flips on its side. It gouges out a massive subterranean network of deep undercut caves and hollow water-filled tunnels right beneath those innocent-looking mossy rocks you stand on. The surface looks calm, but beneath your feet is a high-pressure hydraulic meat grinder. The absolute unyielding mathematics of its lethality is what makes the Bolton Strid truly terrifying. There are no massive warning sirens and no violent white water rapids visible on the surface to scare you away. Yet not a single human being who has ever fallen into the Strid has survived to tell the tale. The mortality rate is exactly 100%. Once you slip on those wet stones, the sheer hydraulic pressure instantly drags you down into the dark, cold abyss. Victims are instantly pulverized against the hidden cavern walls and pinned underwater with the unimaginable weight of an entire river crushing their lungs. What remains completely strange and unexplained is just how deep this subterranean nightmare actually goes. Professional cave divers cannot safely explore it because the downward currents are far too violent. Even heavy-duty sonar equipment lowered into the gap gets violently smashed against the hidden jagged rocks. We literally do not know the true bottom limit of this watery grave. The bodies of victims are often trapped in the underwater caves for weeks or months before the river finally decides to release them. How can the most beautiful, unassuming spot in nature also be its most flawless, inescapable killer? It stands as the ultimate deception, luring in the overconfident and erasing them in the blink of an eye. We began this terrifying journey by questioning the fundamental nature of water. We are taught from childhood that it is the ultimate source of life and the cradle of human civilization. But as we have seen from the violent, crushing currents of the Potomac to the silent, radioactive dread of the Yenisei, nature possesses a deeply terrifying duality. The bloodthirsty sharks of the Brisbane River, the toxic chemical sludge of the Citarum, and the prehistoric nightmares lurking in the Tarcoals all serve as grim, inescapable reminders. They show us that our fragile human bodies are entirely at the mercy of an unforgiving environment. The dissolving acidic waters of the Rio Tinto and the flawless, deceptive trap of the Bolton Strid prove that nature does not need to be ugly to be absolutely lethal. We build towering modern cities and split the atom, convincing ourselves that we have completely conquered the wild. We deeply believe our advanced technology shields us from the brutal realities of the natural world. But these incredible rivers stand as silent, ancient judges. They do not care about our brilliant engineering, our vast wealth, or our supreme arrogance. They simply flow and exist, waiting patiently for us to make a single fatal mistake. It is a profoundly humbling realization. Our existence on this planet is incredibly fragile, and our grand illusion of safety can be washed away in one violent instant. If you want to continue uncovering these dark geographical truths and exploring the hidden mysteries of our world, please take 1 second to register and subscribe to this channel. Your continued support allows us to keep bringing these incredible stories directly to your screen. The next time you find yourself standing by the edge of a beautiful, quiet river, I want you to look closely at the rippling surface. Listen to the gentle, peaceful sound of the water rushing over the smooth stones. And always remember that the most terrifying natural killers in the world do not always have razor-sharp teeth or claws. Sometimes they just have a gentle current, a beautifully serene facade, and a very dark, inescapable secret waiting below.